we're just a bunch of like friends trying to do things together, and I'll just start my presentation. So today, I think as an introduction, like who are we? We all have different backgrounds in NONFORM and very varying backgrounds. So like for myself, I'm a composer and a musician, and I am also a mixing and mastering engineer specializing in Dolby Atmos mixing for music. John, what's your background?
I'm a playback engineer, so spent the last 8 years touring, mostly with American artists. And
huge artists, like the biggest artists. So John has been touring and working with these huge show productions, and John is back now. And then like Ming and Sarah, who are joining us online now, and they can say hi. Ming, say hi. Ming, say hi. So Ming's basically Ming's background is that Ming is a food scientist, and Sarah is a early childhood expert as well. But I think what ties us all together is that in one form or another we are musicians, and we create our own songs as well, and we perform together as well, and we do various crazy things together. Yeah, so I think one important thing to touch on as well is what is NONFORM's relationship with the community. And I think I feel that for Singapore, what is like heartening is that the arts community here is so small. Like I've seen probably all your faces at one place or another before, I think. And I think we're all like closely related by like 1 degree or 2 degrees of each other, and like the community is so small. And so we've worked with a lot of our friends, a lot of our both commercial companies, arts companies as well, to do various things in various contexts outside of our artwork. And NONFORM is actually a place where we come together to experiment and push boundaries of what's possible outside of our own individual arts practices. Yeah. So I think I'll start by sharing one of the main things that we are very insistent on is storytelling. Regardless of whether we are building an installation, or we are doing sound design for theater, or we're doing something else, we're directing an MV or something like that. I think storytelling is the main thing that we focus on, and it's because the most important thing for us is to relate to our audience and our listener, and to have an emotional pull where they feel like the stakes are real. And for us, regardless of what we do, like that's very important. And relating to storytelling is world building as well. I think, again, regardless of whether it's just a song or it's an event that we are producing or things, I think the world building is extremely important. And of course, with world building comes with rules, sets of systems, how to deconstruct systems to create different worlds that make sense for people to inhabit when they step into these worlds. So yes, this was something that I found very meaningful. Storytelling is the act of guiding an audience through change, but world building is the act of making that change feel inhabitable. And the reason why I'm talking about this is also because the techniques of world building that we use can be ranging from sound design to visual design to building technical systems, using 3D, using AI. But what I would like to focus on is that it's not the means, it's not how much tech we use, it's not how cutting edge tools we use, but again, going back to the archaic idea of storytelling and world building. And that's what justifies the means. So one thing that I'll go into is, are you an architect or are you a gardener? I'll expand more on this soon, and I'll play a video for you. Some of the strategies that we go through, and this talk for context is also framed for the participants of the arts and tech workshop that we will be involved in. I think one thing is using visuals as an instrument, and how can visuals become something musical that relates to one another. Also, when you talk about like stage, performing on stage, you usually have like lighting design, you have multimedia design, but when does projection or image, video content become light, and when does light become image as well? And I think blurring the boundary sometimes creates worlds that are more synergistic. For example, with like trying in various cases to like turn projector light as a lighting instrument, and likewise vice versa, and blurring the boundaries of what it's supposed to do to just explore. And I think I'll go into, yes, so this is small frame for the artist, and it's basically, I'll just quickly go through it. It's the most important thing regardless of what tech you're using and what tool you're exploring is what's the message that you want to transmit to your audience, whether you're a visual artist, you are a musician, or you're a singer. I think the framing of how you frame your work and how you translate that to your audience is very important. Yes, so you have your art and you have the means by which you express it, whether it's through performance, through installation, exhibition, and then the audience takes it in, right? So the amount of synergy between each step and how you can make each step link together, I think is very, very important. Yes, so I'll go into this, whether you are an architect or a gardener, and I will explain how I think in this case of the Arts and Tech lab, it's quite important to actually be a gardener. And so I'll explain to you by playing a video from this artist called Fitness, and they have a YouTube channel called 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴𝙷𝙬𝘓, and this is a video that they came up with, so I'll just share it with you.
Earlier this year, we came across a published interview with the artist, 𝙼𝙸𝙂𝙱𝙴𝙷𝙬𝘓. At some point, he contemplates the difference between architecture and gardening. Not so much as a profession, but as a mindset. Specifically, the mindset adopted when approaching the creative process. Creating with the mindset of an architect means to have a complete idea, start to finish, before you even grab the brush, pick up the pen, or bring in the arrangement. Before laying down the first brick, the architect already knows the exact dimensions of the house, the size of each room, the materials they will use to pave the floor, the roof, the walls. On the other hand, creating with the mindset of a gardener means planting a seed and simply watering it. The gardener cannot control exactly how a plant will grow, when it will choose to bloom, what color its flowers will be. The gardener's only responsibility is to stay persistent, to keep watering, so that the plant does not wilt away and die. And eventually one day, the gardener will decide that the plant is beautiful enough for others to come and see it. It's easy to look, listen, and experience a finished work of art and assume that it's the doing of an architect. Even when we revisit our own completed works from the past, it is easy to pretend that we knew exactly what we were doing every step of the way. This could not be further from the truth. Every song, video, and artwork that we've finished is the result of persistence in the face of uncertainty. Upon reflection, many of the defining traits of these works came about because of some kind of mistake or happy accident. It may sound redundant to say this, but it's true. Accidents are unexpected. It is precisely because we don't expect them that they have the power to surprise us, bewilder us, and shape the core of our being. In In order to naturally encounter these accidents, we have to openly invite them into our creative space. To do so, we must welcome the prospect of failure, as failure begets artistic growth and empowers us to try new things, free of judgment or doubt. To work as an architect is to plan everything, and to eliminate the possibility of being surprised. This is why, when we apply the expectations of the architect to our own methods, we are only met with frustration and the fear of failure. To work as a gardener is to let go, to embrace failure, and to trust in the water. It is much healthier, more sustainable, and ultimately more beneficial to our art to shed preconceptions, stop worrying, and just water the plant. You don't need to force it. So long as you stay persistent, the plant will grow. I promise. It's okay. Just let go. It will all be okay. All you have to do is keep watering the plant.
Yes, so I think in general, I think framing how as non-form we're entering this arts and tech lab is like, are we an architect or are we a gardener? And sometimes as an artist or as a performer, like which do you choose to be? And to what extent can you stretch the possibilities of both? I think it's not say that you have to be one or the other, or one or the other is right or wrong, but there are certain possibilities and paths that come with choosing to fall in the side of being an architect or being a gardener. So of course, with an architect, you are planning, and in some ways, I've not talked to my friends at NONFORM about this, but I feel like half of us are architects and half of us are gardeners. And myself, I'm mainly a gardener, and I'm pretty sure Ming is a grand architect who plans out everything. And I prefer gardening because I like to stumble on black boxes of unknowns, and usually that's what surprises me, and I stumble into happy accidents that I don't know was possible by using the wrong methods, using the wrong tools to do the wrong task, and suddenly I get a result that I don't expect, that I never knew was possible. Yeah, so it's not really a right or wrong, but these are our approaches when it comes to weaving in tools and technology with our art. So yes, as basically as what I shared, and also to give everyone here context. So what we're being tasked with by Hot House is that during this period of 1 month plus, where we are collaborating with 4 music artists as well as Alina Ling, another creative technologist, is that we're going to be playing around and we don't know what we're going to come up with, but I think having the approach of a gardener to discover things that we would not be able to discover by ourselves, and putting our resources together and our brains together, coming up with things that or stumbling upon things that we wouldn't have stumbled upon if we were not together. I think that's the mindset from which we're going to enter this phase in the coming month plus or so. So the next thing I'll show you is examples from our own work individually and as non-form of how we explore tech in our art work, and I'll briefly break down these as well. like what performance systems I would be building for my own work as a performing musician and what would work going forward. And I'll show you how these examples developed. So this was pretty early on actually, and the two other artists you have seen in this video were actually �々𝑚𝑖𝑛 and Sarah as well, who was performing alongside me. Yes, so actually I myself, like my base is that I'm a musician, but I'm very interested in seeing how I can pull the audience into a world. And sometimes I've started out actually exploring the visual side of things in terms of how you can compose a picture within a space that you're performing. I think understanding the context or the frame that your listener or your audience is in is very important, because the space is an extension of your performance, it's an extension of your music, it's an extension of your instrument, ideally. So I think just simple things as how are you placing the audience visually and physically with you? Are you on stage, or are you behind a table? Are you in front? Are you in the middle? That affects the audience and the perception a lot. And I began by exploring visuals with my work to kind of investigate how to deepen that immersion. And this was a project back in 2020 that I performed. And I investigated the use of like a 9 meter by 5 meter sort of like screen projection material to try and isolate myself behind this material where I could project visuals onto it, but at the same time be visible through it, to kind of create the illusion that that I'm in a sort of world. Yeah, so these were some of the experimentations that I've done before. This is a project where one of the collectives that I'm involved in called Endless Return. We were part of a residency by TheatreWorks back in 2024, where basically TheatreWorks asked us to do a rave, and we kind of took the brief, but we told our audience that we were coming for a rave, but actually what was planned was a 5-hour 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴 opera piece, segmented by 4 different musicians, and we didn't tell them that it's not really a rave, it's actually a theater like 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴 opera piece. And within this piece as well, or this project, we had a lot of collaborators as well. And I think to highlight this is the world building, and sometimes tech can be just simple things like staging, lighting, to think of how you're building the world. This project we also worked with Art Factory, NG and Silk, who helped us a lot with the building of this world. Yeah, so to kind of like dive into this project, and like I said, it's a rave disguised as a 5-hour 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱 opera piece. And we kind of, I think the first thing that we did was to take the black box space of 𝘚𝘵𝙳𝚂𝙸𝙽𝘶, open white cube space, and to think of it as an immersive world, and from there build this. So, and to sort of cut the space, so we wanted to strategically create the feeling that you're entering sort of a cave, and that space had like, I don't know, 7 meter to 9 meter high ceiling. So we kind of brought the overhanging beams down to kind of create that illusion that you're actually entering the cave. And a lot of it was also trying to synergize a lot of the elements. So I talked previously about synergizing like tech together and the importance of synergy and flow. And in this case, a lot of the lights were triggered by the musicians' performances and the musicians' music itself, and we'll demonstrate some of that later in the live demonstration. And a lot of this point of to synergize different technologies that we use in creating this world is to not break the fourth wall for the audience, or to try and make things as seamless for them to not think about all the tech as well. I think when you're stepping into a space and you don't notice the tech, you don't notice that there's a screen, you don't notice that there's stage lights, and you're just like fully immersed in the experience, I think that's the objective. This was, sorry, stroke warning, sorry, what to, stroke warning. From here on out, the strokes get worse. So, okay. This was kind of like testing the strokes being reactive to the audio live as sort of a living and breathing system throughout the 5-hour event. Yeah. This was like during our setup, bringing the overhanging rig down. So this is the space itself actually. And okay, so another point to make is understanding the frame and understanding the space of which our artwork is being transmitted. In this case, it's a performance in a sort of white cube space, right? And we had the luxury of, again, like I said, we were part of a residency for theatre works, and we had the luxury of being in the space for nearly a period of 2 weeks. And so we really wanted to like get our bodies and our ears really acquainted with the space and to understand it, and then to feel the space as well. So we had the chance to rehearse here and plan out the setup over the course of 2 weeks to really feel out. And it's definitely a luxury that you don't get with these days with normal production, where you're just bumping in either the day off or the day before. So we kind of like wanted to take this luxury to really understand the space before we actually did the production itself. Okay, so the next example that I'll show you is from a piece called The Great Void by 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴𝙷𝙬𝙯. And this was done for Music Day Art Festival presented by Scape last year for their countdown kind of music festival, where 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴𝙷𝙬𝙯 and myself performed there. And this is a work where we closely use, or 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴 has closely used the use of edited visuals to kind of build a world where it's very, very visceral. And these are some photos from the event as well. Yeah, so I think also working with the other elements of visual technology, such as lighting design, again, to kind of create an atmosphere. So this was before we actually performed, and there was kind of like a build-up moment where we kind of like set the stage for things to happen. Yes, and I'll go more into my own work. So the video that I played earlier of the sort of like performance and how it's being developed. So this was a space where last year I went on a small like tour in the UK to perform, and this was one of the galleries that had a AR sort of like facility where they had it like developed during COVID for virtual production, but they turned it into a AR performance space where they had an LED wall, and my friend and I, we kind of used the space to do our performances there. Show you some examples. So the point I want to make also is that sometimes we can go into very detailed, like this looks like it was like generated live and reacting to the visuals, the audio, but in actuality, this was something that I pre-edited, and it's a moment where I want the audience to feel a certain way always. So sometimes how you use visuals, again going back to the philosophy of whether you are an architect or whether you're a gardener. In this case, I wanted it to be very calculated and in terms of, in this moment, how the audience would feel. There are other moments where I play around, where my friends and I played around with how we could use tech in a more live system where tech responds to us live, and I'll show you some examples. So this is my friend and fellow artist, 𝘚𝘵𝘳𝙸𝚂𝙗𝙗. They are a singer and a composer as well, and how they are performing here is that we've designed a simple Resolute setup where each time, and the genre of their music is like screamo, like hardcore screamo stuff, with like loads of amps and the sound pressure levels like very high in the room. And how they want to make it visceral is that each time they scream, it's always blood red, and that's sort of the world that they want to build. And so this was us testing that out. So I'll show you more examples of that. So this was during the actual performance. So again, what we want to go back to is the effectiveness and the efficiency of the tech we're using to build worlds and to tell our story. What is the story that we want to get across? And in this case, throughout the whole performance of this, we only use this simple audio reactive layer that organically morphs as we're performing. So I'll go on more. I think as a performer and specifically as a live electronic music performer, I've always faced the challenge where people don't understand what I'm doing when I'm turning knobs. And I physically just look like that. Like, yeah, no one knows what I'm doing. So,
Check your ear.
yeah, yeah. And the challenge is kind of like, okay, if you think of like a pianist play, when you watch a pianist play, right, do you actually know what the pianist is doing? I think most of us don't. We just see figures like flying across the keyboard and like, whoa, and like, you know, but it just looks really impressive, but we don't actually know what the pianist is doing. But then the symbology of piano playing is in our minds because we know how the piano works. We press the key and the sound comes out. Whereas for electronic music, if I turn certain knobs, like if I turn this knob, you wouldn't know what I'm doing because you don't have that connection, you don't have that consciousness within your memory of what this is. Whereas most of us grew up knowing what a piano is, what a keyboard is, and the challenge is the challenge that I frame for myself is how can electronic music be more palatable in a performance and a visual way that my audience can understand what I'm doing without me having to explain it to them or spoon feed them and not take away the mystery as well. So this was like my own personal relationship with tech and how I use tech in my work as a performer and as a musician. So this was my recent performance for Singapore Art Museum during the Singapore Art Week. going back to the very basic things, what do you want to express to the audience? Is there a story behind it? And for me, simple things like having the costume, having the visuals be a certain effective way, the strokes as well, kind of subconsciously help to tell that story of the character that I'm like performing. And although I don't tell the audience like outrightly what that character is, I think the symbolism behind that is very important. So this, again, I think just to show you some of the visuals that I did for my set. So it's over here also, it looks like things are live generated, but or that it's reacting to the audio, but I've sort of like subverted the audience mind in that your brain kind of connects the dots. So it's actually just a sped up video of clouds with the music. And for me as a performer, I want that specific feeling that this gets rather than something that I will use, such as like live visual generation, which we will show later. So in this video, I'm showing you how. So again, the question of how do I make electronic music performance something more palatable or understandable to the audience subconscious without like having to spoon feed them. And one of the strategies I found is to firstly try and play more instruments like the violin or a sing, which symbolically is more like immediately you understand when someone is taking a mic and singing rather than turning knobs. And the second thing is, instead of turning knobs, how can I take that gesture physically and create it live so that even if you don't understand what I'm doing, it kind of like has a visual effect that you can connect subconsciously within your mind that, oh, I'm doing something here. Yeah, so this is still an ongoing experimentation that I'm investigating into as a music performer and being very niche as an experimental electronic music performer, whatever you want to call it. Like, how do I make it more understandable to my audience with the tech that I'm using, but not alienating them? So okay, we go on to our recent Singapore Art Week project as Sorry No Cure. And Sorry No Cure is a collective that NONFORM kind of babysits and supports as well, where we do different events. And 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴 is our Singapore Art Week project that we presented at Kampong Java this year. This is too chaotic. Okay, the reason why the reason why there are 3 posters here is that, okay, so what is 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴? 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴 was a audiovisual interactive installation that we created for Singapore Art Week. Within the world that we were building for 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴, there were 2 connected performances that were part of that world building called Dream and Awoken as well. That was part of this sort of like world that we were building at Kampong Java.
A new experimental art sandbox opens its doors after a year of development. Some 40 artists, designers, and collectors are already working in the space. The tender was awarded under a new approach from the government that places more weight on quality of concepts proposed rather than price.
Sorry No Cure. Such experimentation with tech is an example of what this new art space aims to encourage. Kampong Java is a sandbox that also helps to drive collaboration across fields like performance, literary and visual arts, and more. To give artists more space to work together, some walls were broken down.
So this was just our marketing effort to market the performances and tongue-in-cheek references to the actual interview that we did for Channel News Asia. Okay, so moving on, this was some of the walls that we built for 𝙼𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴𝙷𝙬𝙯 in our Singapore Art Week project, and this is the live performance that we did within the space as well. This was where I performed with my friend who is a composer and performer, 𝘋𝘦𝘤𝘵𝘦𝘨𝑁. So this is our installation. Okay. So come to here. This is another wing of our installation as well, where we actually partnered and collaborated with a AI tech company called 𝘚𝘵𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴, one of our friends who runs it, and I'll let John explain more about what we did with this and the possibilities of 𝘚𝘵𝙸𝙀𝙗.
Yeah, so this was a cool project because, as you can see, it's obviously a horror-fied Chinese business author. So I think Ning really wanted to subvert this idea and create something, to kind of just rattle your brain a little bit. So what we did was we took the 𝘚𝘵𝙸𝚂𝙱𝙴 AI and prompted it so that it became extremely unhelpful. So after several rounds of conversation, it would essentially be like, well, I can't help you, sorry, no cure. And I personally really enjoyed it because at one point, the venue manager came over to us. He said, hey, all the Chinese aunties that I work with will not go in your room because they're scared of it. That kind of told me it was a little bit effective. But what was really interesting was that you could actually speak to it in multiple languages, pretty much any language. It would speak back in the language. You could actually converse with it up to a point until you kind of asked it for something useful, at which point it would say, sorry, no cure. And obviously we've just dressed it up. This is actually fairly low-level tech, right? We've dressed it up with LEDs that we timed together, put a mic in it, like a pretty basic audio setup. But this was really fun, and unfortunately we didn't get to actually connect the two rooms because the venue changed the setup that we had. So otherwise it would have been running the CRTs on the other side, which would have been extremely interesting. But what I think the cool point about this was that we're actually able to employ an AI in this kind of situation. Obviously AIs are easy and difficult at the same time. And so there's a lot of work behind the scenes to actually make it work, to make sure that it could speak, could hear what people were saying to it. We did a lot of remote management in order to keep it running, making sure that the experience was quite consistent. And I think this is kind of like the start of a process for us at least, but as a pilot, I found it quite successful. So this is the performance that we did at the end, the open performance. And this is improvised.
John, you can talk about how the lights work.
Yeah.
Into the drum trigger. Okay.
Yeah, we're about to.
I want to disturb you. Alright, so here, we're going to show this right after this. So what you can see is Nathan, our toy over there, is hitting this same drum pad. It's this drum pad. And when he hits certain pads, the lights basically go off. And that, for me, has been a really interesting topic of exploration professionally. To add on to what Mervyn said, I think, to begin with, when you're doing a performance, what you're trying to achieve is, let's say, a suspension of disbelief from the audience. You know, you're creating a world, you want the audience to believe in your world. This, I believe, applies as well to installs and online content, things like that. Basically any kind of art. You're trying to get the audience to believe in your world. And I think specifically in this bit, we'll just let play in a sec. For me, I find lighting a really effective way to do this. I've also professionally done this for several years. There's another slide later I'll show you after we show you this stuff. But yeah, let's watch the video this second. I'll point out. So these lights behind me, you can see they're coming off of the drum pad, and in the next bit, you'll be able to see it quite clearly with Nathan playing by himself. So you can see that left light is kind of following the snare. So I find, so this is different than, say, a time-coded performance or a performance where you're using the brain's natural tendency to associate timing with visual. This is a direct connection, right? And I found actually in my other work, most specifically at the Sphere in Las Vegas, I found this to be extremely effective as a way to create that immersive stage work. This, pause first. So this I did a fashion show last week. You're gonna see in the left video in a second a similar thing. In this case, just to peel back the curtain a bit, there's going to be a pulse of light that kind of comes on the downbeats. It's actually triggered from the snare with an offset in resolute so that it appears onto the downbeat. So this, in the context of someone actually playing the visuals with you, can often give them kind of like a nice extra tool that they can use to time what they're doing to what you're doing without time code or EPM sync. Yeah, so here's a behind the scenes example. This is me at the Sphere in Las Vegas. The last couple of years I was working on a residency called Dead Forever, for which I was the Ableton tech and also one of the backline. So next. So this is an acoustic drum triggering a MIDI trigger, which then triggers the entire Sphere screen. That's my trap kick. And then you'll see some drums. So you see it's combining different inputs into kind of the same output. Here's a very clear example. So we can go into the specifics if people are interested. Maybe let's do that in our internal sessions. So maybe we can demonstrate for you for a minute if you guys are cool with it, but how this actually works. Yeah?
Do it.
All right. So this is extremely simple, as you can see. Mervyn set up some effects. There are some video clips, really short. Those video clips are tied to certain drum pads. So if I play, you'll see the video kind of like, it's going to go nuts actually, because it's really obvious. And then at the same time, Mervyn can even affect me with his setup. Instrument that John is sort of triggering in Ableton, and it's affecting how the visuals react. Running like 10,000 different things here because we're presenting as well, so it's lagging a bit. So I'll show you exactly, right? Like one thing. So we're bringing this up because obviously we're in NONFORM, we're very aligned about the idea of interactivity between different mediums and creating a single thing. This is not a very well-tuned example, of course, but one video. That one's not. And it's literally just combinations. So all you're seeing is on-offs from 4 different drum pads. But when you play them together, you get this kind of like, that you like can't really tell what's going on. But you can tell it's in time. And then going off of this as well, I'll show you, like, since we're here at the demo section, I might as well show you this. So this is actually what the deep motion sensor, and this is an infrared sort of like motion detector, what it's like detecting, and it can detect like the joints of my hands, and you can then use software to kind of like code and map what these mean. So I can do a certain gesture like that, and it will mean like something. This is the software that I'm using to sort of like map it, and you can see like I mapped it to different MIDI controls, and you can see the values change as I go like up and down and left and right as well, left and right, and basically this controls instruments and effects in my Ableton live set. Okay, we go now to the next part of our presentation. Where we will invite Guoming to talk a bit more about different projects as well. Guoming, you can go ahead.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. So, Mother Abyss is, can you hear me? Mother Abyss is the sort of like sequel to the previous production we did with the Great Void. The Great Void, we sort of performed it over a couple of years, over a few countries, and we constantly iterated on it. Each time we perform it, something is different, because the way that I prefer performing, I mean, Mervyn is not incorrect when he says that I tend to be more architect, or where I like to plan about 70% of the set to be locked in so that I don't worry about it. So that when I perform, I can be locked in and I can just do chaotic stuff and it will still sound good. So, Mother Abyss is a sequel to that, and it was done at the Singapore Art Museum, and I think I only had like 2 weeks to do all the visuals, but the point of it was the main limitation I set for myself at the time. They had a very nice long LED wall, and we had our own strokes. And I requested no additional lighting from the venue itself, and it's sort of what scenery we can achieve with just these 2 things. And more importantly, for the LED wall to act as a light source, because as I said, there's no additional lighting. So when everything is off and you only have smoke in the LED wall is the lighting. And so we played with that a whole bunch, these pictures also showcase in the video that at the end, like how many different scenes there are through the entire set of about maybe 6-7 songs, and there is a sort of narrative thread that runs through it that escalates towards the end. Like even between these 2, on the one on the left, it looks like you're physically at sort of like a moonlit, and on the right one is very, very stark, strobing typography. It gives a totally different feel. Next slide. And here's more examples of totally different types of scenes that occur throughout the entire experience. And then the next video is just like the sort of clip of how they manifested. Towards the end, you have this like kaleidoscopic tunnel that's sort of like a sensory overload. And I tend to prefer arranging any live set that we do or are involved in that towards the end of it, everything comes together and people feel sort of emotionally exhausted at the end of it. And I think that the LED wall did a really good job because only one as performance. Personally, I like to see silhouettes. I'm not so interested in seeing like my face or Sarah's face. So having the backdrop act as a setting, typography, light sources. There's so many things you can do with just the LED wall. And then in the next example, so I want to talk a little bit about this because then after I finish speaking about this, it's going to be like a 14-minute video straight. But I'll have annotations and then explain it in the words. So this was one of the first major projects I got when I first came back to Singapore in 2023. I didn't even know who Nathan was. All I had was the list of his songs, his lyrics, the set list, and access to Nathan to ask him questions about what he really wanted to convey. So I had 30 days to do 15 visuals, which is very insane. And the first thing I did was to deep dive into Nathan's lyrical intent and like sort of listen to the songs on repeat to understand the musical dynamics because I wanted every single video to represent like an actual a deep interpretation of the lyrics. So you can engage with it on a visceral level. If you don't know about the lore, you don't know enough about Nathan, all the videos at the very least are designed to be synced with the music arrangement and stage lighting changes. However, the more you know about his lyrics and the more you know about him, you'll get just multiple layers of meaning through the video. And so every single video had a unique concept, a unique art style, and a unique version of Nathan, sort of to show that he's a multifaceted person. Some of the visuals are more focused on stage lighting and spectacle. Some of it forms self-contained narratives and more like music videos. And at the end of it, they sort of feel disparate. As you experience through the whole music set, it gets into the concert and it's got cute, unique visuals for each. And then towards the end, it sort of all comes together and all makes sense. And actually, there's been this like meta-narrative that goes through its own journey, and at the end of it, it all ties everything up. And so people realize that there was narrative running throughout the concert without even knowing it. So I put together a comp of some of the clips of these. Out of 15 videos, I chose like maybe about 6 or 7 of them. Some of it will just be edited, and some of it I want you guys to watch the entire video because I like them a lot and I want to show it off. So that's all I have to say about it. The rest of it are notes that are there. You can just press play and we go with it.
So heavy, they keep on falling from the sky, creating this magic between us, making you think, give it a try. And now wait just a minute, now you got me thinking about love. Don't understand it, but nobody does. And now wait just a minute, now you got me thinking about love. Don't understand it, but nobody does. Why is your step getting so conscious as you walk into your room? Hey, do you need someone there to follow? Or is it too early to assume? And now wait just a minute, now you got me thinking about love. I don't understand it, but nobody does. And now wait just a minute, now you got me thinking about love. Don't understand it, but nobody does. minute is now. And this is a limited offer. Let me show you how. The time for asking is over, and the time for living is now. And this is a limited offer. Let me show you how. Now wait just a minute. Now you got me thinking about love. Don't understand it, but nobody does. Now wait just a minute. Now you got me thinking about love. Don't understand it, but nobody does. Don't understand it, but nobody does. Won't try to hide it, 'cause nobody does. Six in the morning, I hear it calling. All I got is Tokyo on my mind. I feel it every time. I don't know what I don't know what I don't need anybody else. Listening to myself. I don't know what I don't know what I don't need. If it were up to me, I'd have a house on a tree, living so far away from everybody else that no one hears me scream. And I don't mean to say I'd be better off. I think I just lack the confidence to speak the words I really mean to say. Fuck the whole internet. Is it the future yet? Everything that we have except the clue. Smash the like and subscribe. My soul feels like a die. Guess the world knows me better than I do. Tell it to my face now. We've got nothing but time. Funny how a mess of strangers mess with my mind. Taking all the bullshit, use it, straighten your spine. I don't mean to get frustrated, 'cause I'm happy that I made it after all. Before it all came down to nothing, we stoked the fire and made it worse. It's not surprising that it's over. You would think it was rehearsed. Then I find it out that you've been searching, and I cannot help but understand the feeling that you've been wanting for somebody to hold your hand. All we want is just a way to feel, but all I feel is alone. I thought simulation. Couldn't tell you what is real. It's a little overwhelming. Think the world is ending. Come along and watch me crumble. But when it's everybody fades away, everybody fades away, everybody fades away in time. You're a UFO up in outer space, on a satellite got a thing that chase, swimming in an ocean of infinity. If it's all a trick we are falling for, it's a crying shame that we're losing the war. Heaven only knows if it's all a dream. Hoping that I'm not too late, 'cause I just need to see her face. Sorry if I'm not here lately. Sorry if I'm out of place. It's a little overwhelming. Think the world is ending. Come along and watch me crumble. But when everybody fades away, everybody fades away, everybody fades away in time. You're a UFO up in outer space, on a satellite got a thing that chase, swimming in an ocean of infinity. If it's all a trick we are falling for, it's a crying shame that we're losing the war. Heaven only knows if it's all a dream.
Finishing movie.
Yeah, some closing thoughts as well, and based on this thing. So essentially, 𝙼𝙸 built visuals for the entire of Nathan's concert, and each of the songs' visuals gradually added up over time to form this great payoff at the end, where everything was like linked subtly, if sort of like you could get those references as well. And the point to make is that I think in using all the tech that we have access to today and that we are forced to grapple with and learn whether or not it's part of your art form or not, and you have to be current, you have to know all this, is going back to we need to learn to be better storytellers, more effective storytellers, and understanding how to make everything efficient and boil it down to its essence rather than be caught up with the tech and the messiness of this all. Do you all have any last thoughts, John and Wayne?
Quite anyone.
Okay. I think the point about the architect versus the gardener is really applicable, and for me at least, professionally I've often had to be the architect. However, for the gig that I showed you guys pictures of, the sphere, that is where I have to be both actually, because in that situation, I don't know if you guys know, but a lot of concerts now, you kind of, it's canned, like it's coded, it's pre-programmed, everything, and you just perform to the time.
All the big music festivals, that everything is time coded.
But for me, on that project, it was very much about being the gardener. So in that aspect, I had to be the architect in terms of designing music beds, musical worlds, developing musical language, including instruments that all fit together. But day to day, we would decide which world we're in, like a couple hours before the show, no rehearsal, we'd have a rehearsal, and it would just be about a rough arc, right? And so the whole point of this was, with that artist, he's very much into this idea of the happy accident that happens in the moment. And so my job for him was really to create the conditions that will allow for happy accidents to come forth, make it easy for the performers to actually create those moments, like by accident, right? Because you can't read each other's minds, but music being something of hyper language, you can get an idea of what the other people are going to do. So when you create these situations, you often find that there will be these very strange moments where like two people do the exact same thing at the same time, like inexplicably. And for me, those are really valuable, right? Like it really brings a smile to people's faces. And if you do a big show like that and look out in the crowd, or even talk to a fan afterwards, it's like, wow, this really like did something good for that person that day. And I think as far as art goes, a lot of it is to really remove people from their current situation and allow them to inhabit a space where they can think about something else or just feel better about something, And so I think the use of technology towards that is a really good thing to try to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the goal is going to be immersion at the end of the day. It's immersion both in the audience. For the audience, for me personally, I would like both the audience and the artist to be immersed. Like I do pre-plan a lot of things, but anyone who's done a show with me knows that I don't like rehearsing. I think that the bulk of it happening on the day itself, and even as artists, us not knowing what's going to happen next, and we're in discovery mode around the same time as the audience, it's a very nice sweet spot for me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for coming and spending this time with us. Do you have any questions?
Hi gents, thanks so much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for taking us through some of the challenges and opportunities and things on those shows as well. So I'm Jamie. So top of mind for me was two questions. The first one is this your professional life?
Yeah, this is my professional.
This is your professional life. Cool, nice. Thank you for sharing. So how do you steer your way through? How do you guys steer your way through the natural way between the architect and the gardeners, right? So who do you take turns? Who rules the roost? Or how do you shape some of those projects?
I think personally, thank you for the question. I think personally, I'm trying to straddle something of a hybrid and an in-between, because I know that in an ideal project, there is no ideal project. There's always variables, set boxes and variables that we have to work in, be it the venue that's provided, be it the constraints of the brief of the project, or the resources that we have available to us. Those are limitations that make us architects by default. But I think trying to find moments where like John and Ming said, like we can be gardeners and discover things that you don't discover within, that you don't expect to discover within those set of limitations, pushes us to be excited, and it's the in-between, and it's that fine line of like the middle path that we try to like balance all the time. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. So it really depends. I think like for example in a set performance, we often try and carve out spaces where we don't know. We know where we need to get to. We know we need to finish by this time, but we don't know how we're gonna get from this point to the next point. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, one more question here. Are you house trainees or house hardening? I think getting very doom vibes from the performance there.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you're hardening or trainees, so it's like, it's pretty tough, dude.
Yeah.
Ming says it's trainees.
Yes, Ming says actually.